The country I chose to research is the Dominican Republic, an island sovereign state in the Caribbean. The Dominican Republic is located on the island of Hispaniola. It occupies the eastern 5/8 of the island, which it shares with Haiti, making Hispaniola one of only two Caribbean islands along with St. Martin that are shared by two sovereign states. Its terrain comprises rainforests, savanna, and highlands, including Pico Duarte, the tallest mountain in the Caribbean. The current population of the Dominican Republic, according to the United Nations data, is 10.84 million. Santo Domingo, the capital as well as the largest city, has Spanish landmarks, like the Gothic Cathedral Primada de America, dating back 5 centuries in its Zona Colonial District. The official language is Spanish and the official currency is Dominican peso. And their current president is Luis Abinader. Christopher Columbus was working for the Spanish crown at the time when he happened upon a large island in the region of the Western Atlantic Ocean that later came to be known as the Caribbean. At the time, it was inhabited by the Taino, an Arawak subgroup. Columbus promptly claimed the island for the Spanish crown, naming it the Spanish Island. It was later Latinized to Hispaniola. Eventually, in 1844, Santo Domingo declares its independence and becomes the Dominican Republic. Up until the early 20th century, they maintained their independence except for a short Spanish occupation from 1861 to 1865, an occupation by the United States from 1916 to 1924. According to a 2015 genealogical DNA study of 27 Dominican individuals, their genetic makeup was estimated to be 52.15% European, 39.57% Sub-Saharan African, and 8.28% Native American and East Asian overall. In a 2014 population survey, 70.4% of Dominicans self-identified as mixed, with mestizo and indio at 58% and mulatto at 12.4%. 15.8% identified as black and 13.5% identified as white, generally referring to Spanish heritage but also including American, British, and French influences on the island. Identifying with pure European ancestry is not very common in the nation, and those who do tend to belong to segregated, albeit elite and privileged parts of society. And lastly, 0.3% identified as other. I think this connects nicely with our breakout room question from week 5, where we discussed ways in which the immigrant population of our study was impacted by colorblind racism in their homeland. Due to the influence of European colonization and European propagation of Africans as lesser, being of African ancestry is often not desired or acknowledged in the Dominican Republic. Approximately 90% of Dominicans have some extent of African descent. However, few people self-identify as being black. According to Harvard scholar Henry Gates, author of Black in Latin America, only 4.13% of Dominicans identified as black. In the Dominican Republic, black is often associated with being Haitian, and those with more African-like phenotypic features are often victims of discrimination. Based on these findings, I think it's safe to say that the Dominican Republic has an issue with classism and how they discriminate certain groups based on their skin tone or how they identify. When it comes to where in the U.S. they migrate, since the mid-1960s, Dominicans have been the largest immigrant group coming to New York, forming the largest Dominican community in the world outside of Santo Domingo. The majority of Dominican immigrants come from their country's lower middle class with an average of 9 years of education. When migrating to the U.S., they predominantly reside in New York, according to the migrationpolicy.org. Immigrants from the Dominican Republic tend to settle in the metropolitan areas like the Bronx and Manhattan. Even though Even though they are far from home, Dominican immigrants can find ways to belong. Manhattan's Little Dominican Republic is a home away from home for immigrants. It is a neighborhood in New York, and the first place families from the Dominican Republic want to go because they know they can go there and not feel alienated. There is also an annual parade that takes place on the second Sunday of August. The Dominican Day Parade's mission is to celebrate the richness of Dominican culture, folklore, and popular traditions. This year, due to the pandemic, the parade was celebrated virtually on August 9, 2020. The Dominican culture is a diverse mixture of different influences from around the world. Dominicans and their customs have origins consisting of predominantly in a European cultural basis with both African and native Taino influences. Like many others, Dominicans come to the U.S. for a better life. A direct example would be on page 161 of the Sabgal PDF titled How the United States Racializes Latinos from In Class Materials. Carolina, a Dominican immigrant, said this about the American dream. The good thing that I see in this country is that all your dreams, if you work hard for them, can be achieved. It's not easy here to achieve a dream, but there are a lot of possible opportunities. She goes on to explain her own situation and blames her imperfect English for her perceived status, saying the only negative aspect is if you do not speak English well, and for instance, if you want to do something grand in this country, you have to speak English. Lastly, she shares her plans to attend school for a year with the intention of learning English. Going back to the Dominican Republic, their economy is the eighth largest in Latin America and is the largest in the Caribbean and Central American region. Their 2020 GDP, gross domestic product, is set at 96.29 billion US dollars. Tourism in the Dominican Republic is an important sector of the country's economy. More than 6 million tourists visit the Dominican Republic, making it the most popular tourist destination in the Caribbean, putting it in the top 5 overall in the Americas. This industry accounts for 11.6% of the nation's GDP and is an essential source of revenue in coastal areas of the country. The Dominican agriculture's products take up 5% of the Dominican's national economy. Their main products are cocoa, tobacco, sugarcane, and coffee. Their main industries include tourism, sugar processing, gold mining, and textiles. As for a future research project, I would like to get a more in-depth look at the classism and discrimination that takes place in the Dominican Republic and see if things have changed in the way they view and treat those with African descent. Some research questions to keep in mind for the future would be, has there been any major progress with how Dominicans identify themselves? Have they started to accept their African ancestry and embrace the culture that comes along with it? If they have, what was the turning point that caused the shift? These are the sources I used, and thank you.